I want to finish on Exdous. Like I said, if you want to have a glass of wine, it's cool, whatever. If you want to get a tattoo, it's cool. It's like a personal conviction. It's not gonna like bother your salvation or nothing, because we're not saved by the things we do. We're saved by putting our faith in Christ alone. And of course, we want to take care of our bodies and be healthy. But if somebody wants to get a tattoo, their intention is probably they're not going to get one of them evil tattoos, satanic ones. They're going to get something like a Christian or something that's not bad, evil. But that's between them and God. I'm not going to label them off not Christians. So I'm going to read Exdous. We're at Exdous chapter 16. So we're going to read. There's like 40 chapters in Exdous. So I'm going to read to like 25, because I don't want to read everything. It's like a whole lot. So it says chapter 16. Exdous chapter 16. Then the whole community of Israel set out from Elam and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin, between Elam and Mount Sinai. They arrived there on the 15th day of the second month, 1 month after leaving the land of Egypt. There too the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. If only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt, they moaned. There we sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. But now you have brought us into the wilderness to starve us all to death. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for the day. I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions." Notice what he said. He said, follow my instructions. On the 6th day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, "By evening you will realize it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaints, which are against him, not against us. What we have done that you should complain about us." Then Moses added, "The Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to satisfy you in the morning, for he has heard all your complaints against him. What have we done? Yes, your complaints are against the Lord, not against us." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Announce this to the entire community of Israel. Present yourself before the Lord, for he has heard your complaining." And as Aaron spoke to the whole community of Israel, they looked out toward the wilderness, and they could see the awesome glory of the Lord in the cloud. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the Israelites' complaints. Now tell them, in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will have all the bread you want. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God." That evening, vast numbers of quail flew in and covered the camp, and the next morning the area around the camp was wet with dew. When the dew evaporated, a flaky substance as fine as frost blanketed the ground. The Israelites were puzzled when they saw it. "What is it?" they asked each other. They had no idea what it was. And Moses told them, "It is the food the Lord has given you to eat. These are the Lord's instructions. Each household should gather as much as it needs to pick up 2 quarts for each person in your tent." So the people of Israel did as they were told. Some gathered a lot, some only a little. But when they measured it out, everyone had just enough. Those who gathered a lot had nothing left over, and those who gathered only a little had enough. Each family had just what it needed. Then Moses told them, "Do not keep any of it until morning." But some of them didn't listen. They wanted to do their own thing. Some of them didn't listen. They kept some of it and until morning. But then when it was full of maggots and had a terrible smell, Moses was very angry with them. After this, the people gathered the food morning by morning, each family according to its need. And as the sun became hot, the flakes they had not picked up melted and disappeared. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much as usual, 4 quarts for each person instead of 2. Then all the leaders of the community came and asked Moses for an explanation. And he told them, "This is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, of holy Sabbath day, set apart for the Lord. So bake or boil as much as you want today, and set aside what is left for tomorrow." So they put some aside until morning, just as Moses had commanded. And in the morning, the leftover food was wholesome and good, without maggots or odor. Moses said, "Eat this food today, for today is a Sabbath day, dedication to the Lord. There will be no food on the ground today. You may gather the food for 6 days, but the 7th day is the Sabbath. There will be no food on the ground that day." Some of the people went out anyway on the 7th day, but they found no food. The Lord asked Moses, "How long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? They must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. That is why he gives you a 2-day supply on the 6th day. So there will be enough for 2 days. On the Sabbath day you must eat. On the Sabbath day you must each stay in your place. Do not go out to pick up food on the 7th day." So people did not gather any food on the 7th day. The Israelites called the food manna. It was white like corana seed, and it tastes like honey wafers. Then Moses said, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Fill a 2-quart container with manna to preserve it for your descendants." Exodus chapter 16 verse 23 says, the Israelites were not supposed to work on the Sabbath. Even cooking food was viewed as work. God knew that the busy routine of daily living could distract people from worshiping him. Instead, he wanted his people to rest from their labors and focus on him. It is so easy to let school, friends, other activities crowd our schedule so tightly that we don't spend regular time with God. How do you guard your time with God? Fill a 2-quart container with manna to preserve it for your descendants. And later, generations will be able to see the food I gave you in the wilderness when I set you free from Egypt. Moses said to Aaron, get a jar and fill it up with 2 quarts of manna. Then put it in a sacred place before the Lord to preserve it for all the future generations. Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded Moses. He eventually placed it in the Ark of the Covenant in front of the stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant. So the people of Israel ate the manna for 40 years until they arrived at the land where they were settled. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. The container used to measure the manna was an omer, which was 1/10 of an ephah. It held about 2 quarts. Exdous chapter 17. Water from the rock. At the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of Sin and moved from the place to place. Eventually, they camped at Ramah, but there was no water there for the people to drink. So once more, the people complained against Moses. Give us water to drink, they demanded. Quiet, Moses replied. Why are you complaining against me? And why are you testing the Lord? But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us? Our children and our livestock will thirst. Then Moses cried out to the Lord, what should I do with these people? They are ready to stone me. The Lord said to Moses, walk out in front of the people and take your staff, the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile, and cause some of the elders of Israel to join you. I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come gnashing out. Then the people will be able to drink. So Moses struck the rock as he was told, and water gushed out as the elders looked on. Moses named the place Massach, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, is this Lord here with us or not? Israel defeats the Ammonites. While the people of Israel were still at Ramah, the warriors of Amalek attacked them. Moses commanded Joshua, choose some men to go out and fight the army of Amalek for us. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill holding the staff of God in my hand. So Joshua did what Moses had commanded and fought the army of Amalek. Meanwhile, Moses, Aaron, and Hur climbed to the top of a nearby hill. As long as Moses held up the staff in his hand, the Israelites had the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hand, the Amalekites gained the advantage. Moses' arms soon became so tired he could not hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. Then they stood on each side of Moses, holding up his hands. So his hands held steady until sunset. As a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. After the victory, the Lord instructed Moses, write this down on a scroll as a permanent reminder and read it out loud to Joshua. I will erase the memory of the Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar there and named it Yahweh Nissi. He said, they have raised their fists against the Lord's throne, so now the Lord will be at war with Amalek generation after generation. Exodus 18. Moses' father-in-law, Jericho, priest of Midian, heard about everything God had done for Moses and his people. The Israelites, he heard especially about how the Lord had rescued them from Egypt. Earlier, Moses had sent his wife Zipporah and his 2 sons back to Jericho, who had taken them in. Moses' first son was named Gershom, for Moses said, When the boy was born, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. His second son was Eliezer, I guess. For Moses has said, the God of my ancestors was my helper. He rescued me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jericho, Moses' father-in-law, now came to visit Moses in the wilderness. He brought Moses' wife and 2 sons with him, and they arrived while Moses and the people were camped near the mountain of God. Jericho had sent a message to Moses saying, I, Jericho, your father-in-law, am coming to see you with your wife and your 2 sons. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. They asked about each other's welfare and then went into Moses' tent. Moses told his father-in-law everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh and Egypt in behalf of Israel. He also told about all the hardships they had experienced along the way and how the Lord had rescued his people from all their troubles. Jericho was delighted when he heard about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel as he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. Praise the Lord, Jericho said, for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Yes, he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt. I know now that the Lord is greater than all other gods, because he rescued his people from his oppression, from the oppression of the proud Egyptians. Then Jericho, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. Aaron and all the elders of Israel came out and joined him in a sacrificial meal in God's presence. Jericho's advice. The next day Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. This is where we like to get advice from our Christian brothers and sisters. We're supposed to be helping each other, looking out for each other. When people come attack us, when we're trying to expose like false doctrines, we should have our Christian brothers like step in when bad people come and attack us. But a lot of that, I don't see that. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, what are you really accomplishing here? Why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning to evening? They should make themselves helpful. Moses replied, because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I am the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions. This is not good, Moses' father-in-law claimed. You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me and let me give you some word of advice. And may God be with you. You should continue to be with the people's representatives before God, bringing their disputes to him. Teach them God's decrees and give them his instructions. Show them how to conduct their lives. But select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,150 and 10. They should always be available to solve the people's common disputes. But have them bring the major cases to you, and let the leaders decide the smaller matters themselves. They will help you carry the load, making the task easier for you. If you follow this advice, and if God commands you to do so, then you will be able to endure the pressures, and all these people will go home in peace. Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice, and followed his suggestions. He chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over the people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,150 and 10. These men were always available to solve the people's common disputes, and they brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of the smaller matters themselves. Exodus chapter 18, verse 1, verse 11. Moses told his father-in-law about the great deeds God performed to free the people of Israel from slavery in Egypt. Our family and friends are often the hardest people to talk with about God, yet we have an important influence over them. What are some of the opportunities you have to tell your friends and family about God? How can you take advantage of those opportunities? Soon after this, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law, who returned to his own land. So we're in Exodus chapter 19. This is a little article. Is it okay if I don't like my stepmom or stepdad? It says, like is different from respect. God doesn't say you have to like your stepmom. You don't even have to like the president. You don't have to like nobody. You don't have to like certain people, or your stepdad any more than you have to like the family next door. But you still have to respect people. You have to respect your neighbors to get along with them. And you still have to respect your stepmom, your stepdad. See Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, which we'll read that next. You have to listen to your step-parents and obey them. Arguing, she's not my real mom, or I only listen to my real father, does not fly with God. If you honor your step-parents over time, you just might begin to like them too. So we're in Exodus chapter 19. Exactly 2 months after the Israelites left Egypt, they arrived in the wilderness of Sinai after breaking camp at Adultery. They came to the wilderness of Sinai and set up camp there at the base of Mount Sinai. Then Moses climbed to the mountain to appear before God. The Lord called to him from the mountain and said, "Give these instructions to the family of Jacob, announce it to the descendants of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. You know how I carried you on eagle wings and brought you to myself. Now if you will obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own special treasure from among all the peoples on earth. For all the earth belongs to me. And you will be my kingdom, a priest, my holy nation. This is a message you must give to the people of Israel." So Moses returned from the mountain and called together the elders of the people and told them everything the Lord had commanded him. And all the people responded together, "We will do everything." Notice they said that we will do everything, but they never kept their promises. We'll do everything the Lord. And we will do everything the Lord has commanded. So Moses brought the people's answer back to the Lord. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I will come to you in a thick cloud." So the people themselves can hear me when I speak with you, then they will always trust you. Moses told the Lord what the people had said. Then the Lord told Moses, "Go down and prepare the people for my arrival. Concentrate them today and tomorrow and have them wash their clothing. Be sure they are all ready on the third day. For on the day the Lord will come down on Mount Sinai as all the people watch. Mark off a boundary all around the mountain. Warn the people, be careful, do not go up to the mountain or even touch its boundaries. Anyone who touches the mountain will certainly be put to death. No hand may touch the person or animal that crosses the boundary. Instead, stone them or shoot them with arrows. They must be put to death, however, when the ram's horn sounds a long blast. Then the people may go up on the mountain." So Moses went down to the people, and he consecrated them for worship, and they washed their clothes, and he told them, "Get ready for the third day, and until then abstain from having sexual intercourse." On the morning of the third day, thunder roared and lightning flashed, and a dense cloud came down on the mountain. There was a long, loud blast from a ram's horn, and all the people trembled. Moses led them out from the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. All the Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord has descended on it in the form of fire. The smoke billowed into the sky like smoke from a brick kiln, and the whole mountain shook violently. As the blast of the ram's horn grew louder and louder, Moses spoke and God thundered his reply. The Lord came down on the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses to the top of the mountain. So Moses climbed the mountain. Then the Lord told Moses, "Go back down and warn the people not to break through the boundaries to see the Lord, or they will die. Even the priests who regularly come near to the Lord must purify themselves so that the Lord does not break out and destroy them." But the Lord Moses protested, "The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai. You already warned us. You told me, mark off a boundary all around the mountain to set it apart as holy." But the Lord said, "Go down and bring Aaron back up with you. In the meantime, do not let the priests or the people break through to approach the Lord, or he will break out and destroy them." So Moses went down to the people and told them what the Lord has said. So, Exodus chapter 20 is the 10 Commandments for the covenant community. Then God gave the people all these instructions. He says, "I am the Lord your God." He says, "I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other God but me." Do you see why we say that Jesus Christ is the only way? Because he's saying that he is the only God to be worshipped, not other religions. And all them other religions don't lead to this God of the Holy Bible. Or the religions of the world, they lead to false gods, false beliefs that are not found in this Bible. They contradict what the Bible says about his holy word, what he says. And we must speak about that. You must not have any other God but me. That's what he says. You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heavens or on the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon the children. The entire family is affected, even children in the third and fourth generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Remember to observe the Sabbath day. By keeping it holy, you have 6 days each week for your ordinary work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in the 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Honor your father and your mother, then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord your God is commanding you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. We'll see a lot of that. You must not convict your neighbor's house, and you must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. When the people heard the thunder and the blast of the rain horn, and when they saw the flashes of lightning and the smoke billowing from the morning mountain, they stood at a distance, trembling with fear. And they said to Moses, "You speak to us, and we were listening, but don't let God speak directly to us, or we would die." "Don't be afraid," Moses answered them, "for God has come in this way to test you, and so that your fear of him will keep you from sinning." As the people stood in the distance, Moses approached the dark cloud where God was. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. What's in a name? Everything in God's case, his name reveals his character. Through the 10 Commandments, God reminded his people of the sacredness of his name. No one was to misuse it, yet we often hear it used carelessly or in a curse today. The way we use God's name shows how we really feel about him. His name deserves respect. How do you conversate with others? How do you have conversations with others who support this view of misusing God's name? Honoring your parents. This is the first commandment with a promise attached to live in peace for generations in the promised land. The Israelites will need to respect authority and build strong families. But how is the command to honor parents lived out? Speaking well of them is one way, showing them courtesy and respect, but not at the cost of disobeying God. Also is a way to honor them. Parents have a special place in God's sight. The command to honor them is for everyone, even for those who find getting along with their parents is to be difficult. How do you honor yours? So it says proper use of authors. Exodus 21, verse 22. And the Lord said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel, you saw for yourselves that I spoke to you from heaven. Remember, you must not make any idols or silver or gold to rival me. Build for me an altar made of earth and offer your sacrifices to me, your burnt offerings and your peace offerings, your sheep and goats and your cattle. Build my altar wherever I cause my name to be remembered, and I will come to you and bless you. If you use stones to build my altar, use only natural uncut stones. Do not shape the stones with a tool, for that would make the altar unfit for holy use. And do not approach my altar by going up steps. If you do, someone might look up unto your clothing and see your nakedness." So we're in Exodus chapter 21. The fair treatment of slaves. These are the regulations you must present to Israel. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he may serve for no more than 6 years. Set him free in the 7th year, and he will owe you nothing for his freedom. If he was single when he became your slave, he shall leave single. But if he was married before he became a slave, then his wife must be freed with him. If his master gave him a wife while he was a slave and they had sons or daughters, then only the man will be free in the 7th year, but his wife and children will still belong to his master. But the slave may declare, "I love my master, my wife, and my children. I don't want to go free." If he does this, his master must present him before God. Then his master must take him to the door or doorpost and publicly pierce his ear with an awl. After that, the slave will serve his master for life. When a master sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of 6 years as the men are. If she does not satisfy her owner, he must allow her to be bought back again. But he is not allowed to sell her to foreigners, since he is the one who broke the contract with her. But if the slave's owner arranges for her to marry his son, he may no longer treat her as a slave but as a daughter. If a man who has married a slave wife takes another wife for himself, he must not neglect the rights of the first wife to food, clothing, and sexual intimacy. If he fails in any of these free obligations, she may leave as a free woman without making any payment. Cases for personal injury. Anyone who assaults and kills another person must be put to death. But if it was simply an accident permitted by God, I will appoint a place of refuge where the slayer can run for safety. However, if someone deliberately kills another person, then that slayer must be dragged even from my altar and be put to death. Anyone who strikes father or mother must be put to death. Kidnappers must be put to death, whether they are caught in possession of their victims or have already sold them as slaves. Anyone who dishonors father or mother must be put to death. Now, suppose two men quarrel and one hits the other with a stone or fist, and then injured person does not die, but is confined to bed. If he is later able to walk outside again, even with a crutch, the assailant will not be punished, but must compensate his victim for lost wages and provide for his full recovery. If a man beats his male or female slave with a club and the slave dies as a result, the owner must be punished. But if the slave recovers within a day or two, then the owner shall not be punished, since the slave is his property. Now suppose two men are fighting, and in process they accidentally strike a pregnant woman, so she gives birth prematurely. If no further injury results, the man who struck the woman must pay the amount of compensation the woman's husband demands, and the judges approve. But if there is further injury, the punishment must match the injury: a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a bruise for a bruise. If a man hits his male or female slave in the eye and the eye is blinded, he must let the slave go free to compensate for the eye. And if a man knocks out the tooth of his male or female slave, he must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. If an ox gores a man or woman to death, the ox must be stoned and its flesh must not be eaten. In such a case, however, the owner will not be held liable. But suppose the ox has a reputation for goring and the owner had been informed but failed to keep it under control. If the oxen kill someone, it must be stoned, and the owner must also be put to death. However, the dead person's relatives may accept payment to compensate for the loss of life. The owner of the ox may redeem his life by paying whatever is demanded. The same regulation applies if the ox scores a boy or a girl, but if the ox scores a slave, either male or female, the animal's owner must pay the slave's owner 30 silver coins, and the ox must be stoned. Suppose someone digs or uncovers a pit and fails to cover it, and then the ox or donkey falls into it. The owner of the pit must pay full compensation to the owner of the animal, but then he gets to keep the dead animal. If someone's ox injures neighbor's ox and the injured ox dies, then the two owners must sell their live ox and divide the price equally between them. They must also divide the dead animal. But if the ox had a reputation for goring yet its owner failed to keep it under control, he must pay full compensation. A live ox for the dead one, but he may keep the dead one. Exodus chapter 22. If someone steals an ox or a sheep and then kills or sells it, the thief must pay back 5 oxen for each ox stolen and for each sheep stolen. If a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is struck and killed in the process, the person who killed the thief is not guilty of murder. But if it happens in daylight, the one who killed the thief is guilty of murder. A thief who is caught must pay in full for everything he stole. If he cannot pay, he must be sold as a slave to pay for his theft. If someone steals an ox or a donkey or a sheep and it is found in the thief's possession, then the thief must pay double the value of the stolen animal. If an animal is grazing in a field or vineyard, and the owner lets it stray into someone else's field to graze, then the animal owner must pay compensation for the best of his own grain or grapes. If you are burning thorn bushes and the fire gets out of control and spreads into another person's field, destroying the sheaves or the uncut grain or the whole crop, the one who started the fire must pay for the lost crop. Suppose someone leaves money or goods with a neighbor for safekeeping, and they are stolen from the neighbor's house. If the thief is caught, the compensation is double the value of what was stolen. But if the thief is not caught, the neighbor must appear before God, who will determine if he stole the property. Suppose there is a dispute between two people who both claim to own a particular ox, donkey, sheep, article of clothing, or any lost property. Both parties must come before God, and the person whom God declares guilty must pay double compensation to the other. Now suppose someone leaves a donkey, ox, sheep, or any other animal with a neighbor for safekeeping, but it dies or is injured or is taken and no one sees what happened. The neighbor must take an oath in the presence of the Lord. If the Lord confirms that the neighbor did not steal the property, the owner must accept the verdict, and no payment will be required. But if the animal was indeed stolen, the guilty person must pay compensation to the owner. If it was torn to pieces by an animal, the remains of the carcass must be shown as evidence, and no compensation will be required. If someone borrows an animal from a neighbor and it is injured or dies when the owner is absent, the person who borrowed it must pay full compensation. But if the owner was present, no compensation is required, and no compensation is required if the animal was rented, for this loss is covered by the rental fee. Exodus chapter 22, verse 1, verse 15. Chapter 22 includes several examples of the principle of restitution, making wrongs right. For example, if a man stole an animal, he had to repay up to 4 or 5 times its market value, depending on the circumstances. If you have done someone wrong, you should go beyond what is expected to make things right. This will help ease any pain you might have caused. It can also help the other person to be more forgiving and make you more likely to think before you do the same thing again. If someone borrows an animal from a neighbor and is injured or dies when the owner is absent, the person who borrowed it must pay full compensation. But if the owner was present on the rental fee. Social responsibility. If a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged to anyone and has sex with her, he must pay the commissary bride price and marry her. But if her father refuses to let him marry her, the man must still pay him an amount equal to the bride price of a virgin. You must not allow sorceries to live. Anyone who has sexual relations with an animal must certainly be put to death. Anyone who sacrifices to any god other than the Lord must be destroyed. You must not mistreat or oppress foreigners in any way. Remember, you yourself were foreigners in the land of Egypt. You must not exploit a widow or an orphan. If you exploit them in any way, and they cry out to me, then I will certainly hear their cry. My anger will ablaze against you, and I will kill you with the sword. Then your wives will be widows, and your children followers. If you lend money to any of my people who are in need, do not change interest as a moneylender would. If you take your neighbor's cloak as security for a loan, you must return it before sunset. This coat may be the only blanket your neighbor has. How can a person sleep without it? If you do not return it, and your neighbor cries out to me for help, then I will hear, for I am merciful. You must not dishonor You must not dishonor God or curse any of your rulers, and you must not hold anything back when you give me offerings from your crops and your wine. You must give me your firstborn sons. You must also give me the firstborn of your cattle, sheep, and goats. But leave the newborn animal with its mother for 7 days. Then give it to me on the 8th day. You must be my holy people. Therefore, do not eat any animal that has been torn up and killed by wild animals. Throw it to the dogs. Exodus chapter 22, verse 21. God wanted the Israelites not to treat for foreigners unfairly because they were once foreigners themselves in Egypt. Coming to a new environment where you feel alone and out of place is not easy. Are newcomers in your corner of the world. Perhaps they are new to your school or newly arrived in this country. How can you show sensibility to their struggles and express God's love by your kindness and generosity? Exodus chapter 23, verse 1, verse 3. Making up or passing along false reports was strictly forbidden by God. Gossiping, slandering, and witnessing falsely undermine families, strain relationships, and add chaos to the justice system. Yet we often pass on unverified information in form of prayer requests or news. Even if you do not intend a lie, you may become responsible if you pass it along. Exodus 23. A call for justice. You must not pass along false rumors. You must not cooperate with evil people by lying on the witness stand. You must not follow the crowd and doing wrong. When you are called to testify in a dispute, do not be swayed by the crowd to twist justice. And do not launch your testimony in favor of a person just because that person is poor. If you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey that has strayed away, take it back to its owner. If you see that the donkey of someone who hates you has collapsed under its load, do not walk by, instead stop and help. In a lawsuit, you must not deny justice to the poor. Be sure never to charge anyone falsely with evil. Never sentence an innocent or blameless person to death, for I never declare a guilty person to be innocent. Take no bribes for a bribe. You ignore something that you clearly say. A bribe makes even a righteous person twist the truth. You must not oppress foreigners. You know that what it's like to be a foreigner, for you yourself were once foreigners in the land of Egypt. Plant and harvest your crops for 6 years, but let the land be renewed, lie uncultivated. During the 7th year, then let the poor among you harvest whatever it grows in its own land, in its own. Leave the rest for the wild animals to eat. The same applies to the vineyards and olive groves. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but on the seventh day you must stop working. This gives your ox and your donkeys a chance to rest. It also allows slaves and foreigners living among you to be refreshed. Pay close attention to all my instructions. You must not call on the name of any other gods. Do not even speak their names. Free animal festivals. Each year you must celebrate free festivals in honor. First, celebrate the festival of unleavened bread. For 7 days, the bread you eat must be made without yeast, just as I commanded you. Celebrate this festival annually at the appointed time in early spring in the month of Adultery, for that is the anniversary of your departure from Egypt. No one may appear before me without an offering. Second, celebrate the festival of harvest when you bring me the first crops of your harvest. Finally, celebrate the festival of final harvest at the end of the harvest season when you have harvested all the crops from your fields. At these 3 times each year, every man in Israel must appear before the sovereign the Lord. You must not offer the blood of my sacrificial offering together with any baked goods containing yeast. And do not leave the fat from the festival offering until the next morning. As you harvest your crops, bring the very best of the first harvest to the house of the Lord your God. You must not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. So the next one is called a promise of the Lord's presence. See, I'm sending an angel before you to protect you on your journey and lead you to safety to the place I have prepared for you. Pay close attention to him and obey his instructions. Do not rebel against him, for he is my representative, and he will not forgive your rebelling. But if you are careful to obey him, following in all my instructions, then I will be an enemy to your enemies, and I will oppose those who oppose you. For my angel will go before you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, and Canaanites, Hivites, and Jebusites, so you may live there. And I will not worship. And I will destroy them completely. You must not worship the gods of these nations or serve them in any way or imitate their evil practices. It's like the world today. Like, you're not supposed to imitate their evil practices when they worship false gods, false religions. Instead, you must utterly destroy them and smash their sacred pillars. See, smash their sacred pillars. Do you know what that means? Okay. So it says, you must not worship the gods of these nations or serve them in any way or imitate their evil practices. Instead, you must utterly destroy them and smash their sacred pillars. You must serve only the Lord your God. If you do, I will bless you with food and water, and I will protect you from illness. There will be no miscarriage or infertility in your land, and I will give you long, full lives. I will send my terror ahead of you and create panic among all the people whose lands who you invade. I will make all your enemies turn and run. I will send terror ahead of you to drive out the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, but I will not drive them out in a single year, because the land would become desolate and the wild animals would multiply and threaten you. I will drive them out a little at a time until your population has increased enough to take possession of the land. And I will fix your boundaries from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea, and from the eastern wilderness to the Euphrates River. I will hand over to you the people now living in the land, and you will drive them out ahead of you. Make no treaties with them or their gods. They must not live in your land, or they will cause you to sin against me. If you serve their gods, you will be caught in the trap of adultery. So we're in Exodus chapter 24. Israel accepts the Lord's covenant. Then the Lord instructed Moses, "Come up here to me and bring along Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the Israel elders. All of you must worship from a distance. Only Moses is allowed to come near to the Lord. The others must not come near, and none of the other people are allowed to climb up the mountain with him." Then Moses went down to the people and repeated all the instructions and regulations the Lord had given him. All the people answered with one voice, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded." Then Moses carefully wrote down all the Lord's instructions. Early the next morning, Moses got up and built an altar at the foot of the mountain. He also set up 12 pillars, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent some of the young Israelite men to present burnt offerings and to sacrifice bulls as peace offerings to the Lord. Moses drained half the blood from these animals into basins. The other half he splattered against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it out loud to the people. Again, all responded, "We will do everything the Lord has commanded. We will obey." Then Moses took the blood from the basins and splattered it over the people, declaring, "Look, this blood confirms the covenant the Lord has made with you and given you these instructions." Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel climbed up the mountain. There they saw God of Israel. Under his feet there seemed to be a surface of brilliant blue lazuli, as clear as the sky itself. And know that these nobles of Israel gazed upon God, he did not destroy them. In fact, they ate a covenant meal, eating and drinking in his presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain. Stay there, and I will give you the tablets of stone on which I have inscribed the instructions and commands, so you can teach the people." So Moses and his assistant Joshua set out, and Moses climbed up the mountain of God. Moses told the elders, "Stay here and wait for us until we come back. Aaron and Hur are here with you. If anyone has a dispute while I am gone, consult with them." Then Moses climbed up the mountain, and the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord settled down on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the 7th day the Lord called to Moses from inside the cloud. To the Israelites at the foot of the mountain, the glory of the Lord appeared at the summit like a consuming fire. Then Moses disappeared into the cloud as he climbed higher up the mountain. He remained on that mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So we're at Exodus chapter 25. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the people of Israel to bring me their sacred offerings. Accept the contributions from all whose hearts are moved to offer them. Here is a list of sacred offerings you may accept from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet red, fine linen and goat hair for cloth, and tan ram skins and fine goatskin leather, acacia wood, olive oil for the lamps, spices for the anointing oil, and the fragrant incense and onyx stone and other gemstones to be set in the ephod and priest's chest piece. Have the people of Israel build me a holy sanctuary so I can live among them, and you must build this tabernacle and its furnishes exactly according to the pattern I will show you." What was that? I don't know why I keep getting these weird text messages. Have the people of Israel build me a holy sanctuary so I can live on. Yeah, I read that. Plans for the Ark of the Covenant. Have the people make an ark of acacia wood, a sacred chest, 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Overlay it inside and then outside with pure gold, and run a molding of gold all around it. Cast 4 gold rings and attach them to its 4 feet, 2 rings on each side. Make poles from acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the rings at the sides of the ark to carry it. These carrying poles must stay inside the rings. Never remove them. When the ark is finished, place inside it the stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant, which I will give to you. Then make the ark's cover, the place of atonement, from pure gold. It must be 45 inches long and 27 inches wide. Then make 2 cherubim from hammered gold and place them on the 2 ends of the atonement cover. Mold the cherubim on each end of the atonement cover, making it all of one piece of gold. The cherubim will face each other and look down on the atonement cover with their wings spread above it. They were protected. Place inside the ark the stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant, which I will give to you. Then put the atonement cover on top of the ark. I will meet with you there and talk to you from above the atonement cover between the gold cherubim, the hover over the ark of the covenant. From there I will give you my commands for the people of Israel. $25. The symbolism of God's redemption covenant was preserved in the tabernacle, making each element an object blessing for the worshiper. Reconstruction of the furnishing is possible because of extremely detailed descriptions and precise measurements recorded in Exodus 25. The Ark of the Covenant. Inside the Ark of the Covenant or Ark of the Covenant law were kept the Ten Commandments, a jar of manna, and Aaron's staff that budded. Compare. The lampstand. The traditional form of the lampstand is not attested archaeologically until much later. The table holding the bread of the presence was made of wood covered with thin sheets of gold. All of the objects were portable and fitted with rings and carrying poles. Literally, the bread of his face. This was an offering of 12 loaves of bread, symbolizing the 12 tribes of Israel and their devotion to God. This offering was continually kept in the presence of the Lord in the holy place. Each week, fresh bread was put before the Lord, and the priests were permitted to eat the old bread. The gold is one of the most valuable metals on earth. It symbolizes purity, honor, integrity, and value. It reflects light well and does not tarnish or change easily. Using it in a tabernacle furniture showed honor and respect for God. Plans for the table. Then make a table of acacia wood 36 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Overlay it with pure gold and run a gold molding around the edge. Decorate it with a 3-inch border all around and run a gold molding along the border. Make your gold rings for the table and attach them at the four corners next to the four legs. Attach the rings near the border to hold the poles that are used to carry the table, and make these poles from acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Make special containers of pure gold for the table bowls. Lay those pitchers in jars to be used in pouring out liquid offerings, and place the bread of the presence of the table to remain before me at all times. Plans for the lampstand. Make a lampstand of pure hammered gold and make the entire lampstand and its decorations are one piece. The base center step lamp cups, buds, and petals. Make it with 6 branches going out from the center stem, 3 on each side. Each of the 6 branches will have 3 lamp cups shaped like almond blossoms, complete with buds and petals. Craft the center stem of the lampstand with 4 lamp cups shaped like almond blossoms, complete with buds and petals. There will also be almond bud beneath each pair of branches, where the 6 branches attend from the center stem. The almond buds and branches must all be of one piece with the center stem, and they must be hammered from pure gold. Then make the 7 lamps for the lampstand and set them so they reflect their light forward. The lamp snuffers and trays must also be made of pure gold, and you will need 75 pounds of pure gold for the lampstand and its accessories. Be sure that you make everything according to the pattern I have showed you here on the mountain. So Exodus, I'm going to read the 10 Commandments compared with Jesus said. Jesus and the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments said, "You must not have any other God but me," in Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. And then it says in the New Testament, Jesus said, "You must worship the Lord your God and serve only him," Matthew chapter 4, verse 10. You must not make yourself an idol of any kind. Exodus chapter 20, verse 4. No one can serve two masters. Luke chapter 16, verse 13. You must not misuse the name of your Lord God. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7. Do not make any vows, and do not say by heaven, because heaven is God's throne. Matthew chapter 5, verse 34. Remember to observe the Sabbath by keeping it holy. Exodus chapter 20, verse 8. The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of people and not people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even over the Sabbath. Mark chapter 2, verse 27, verse 28. Honor your father and mother. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. If you love your father or mother more than you love me, you're not worthy of being mine. Matthew chapter 10, verse 37. You must not murder. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. If you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. Matthew chapter 5, verse 22. You must not commit adultery. Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. No, Exodus chapter 20, verse 14. You must not commit adultery. Anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. You must not steal. Exodus chapter 20, verse 15. If your shirt is taken from you, give your coat too. Matthew chapter 5, verse 40. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. Exodus chapter 20, verse 16. You must give an account on judgment day for every idle word you speak. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36. You must not covet. Exodus chapter 20, verse 17. Beware guard against every kind of greed. Luke chapter 12, verse 15. So that was 25 I read. So I read 26. Exodus chapter 26, plan for the tabernacle. Make the tabernacle from 10 curtains of finely woven linen. Decorate the curtains with blue, purple, and scarlet thread with skillfully embroidered cherubim. These 10 curtains must all be exactly the same size, 42 feet long and 6 feet wide. Join 5 of these curtains together to make one long curtain. Then join the other 5 into a second long curtain. Put loops of blue yarn along the edge of the last curtain in each set. The 50 loops along the edge of one curtain are to match the 50 loops along the edge of the other curtain. Then make 50 gold clasps and fasten the long curtains together with the clasps. In this way, the tabernacle will be made of the one continuous piece. Make 11 curtains of goat hair cloth to serve as a tent covering for the tabernacle. These 11 curtains must all be exactly the same size, 40 feet long and 6 feet wide. Join 5 of these curtains together to make one long curtain and join the other 6 into a second long curtain. Allow 3 feet material from the second set of curtains to hang over the front of the sacred tent. Make 50 loops for one edge of each large curtain. Then make 50 bronze clasps and fasten the loops of the long curtains with the clasps. In this way, the tent covering will be made of one continuous piece. The remaining 3 feet of this tent covering will be left to hang over the back of the tabernacle. Allow 18 inches of remaining material to hang down over each side so that the tabernacle is completely covered. Complete the tent covering with a protective layer of tan ram skins and a layer of fine goatskin leather. For the framework of the tabernacle, construct frames of acacia wood. Each frame must be 15 feet high and 27 inches wide, with 2 pegs under each frame. Make all the frame identical. Make 20 of these frames to support the curtains of the south side of the tabernacle. Also, Make 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame with the pegs fitting security into the bases. For the north side of the tabernacle, make another 20 frames with their 40 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame, and make 6 frames for the rear, the west side of the tabernacle, along with 2 additional frames to reinforce the rear corners of the tabernacle. These corner frames will be matched at the bottom and firmly attached at the top with a single ring, forming a single corner unit. Make both of these corner units the same way. So there will be 8 frames at the rear of the tabernacle, set in 16 silver bases, 2 bases under each frame. Make crossbars of acacia wood to link the frames, 5 crossbars for the north side of the tabernacle and 5 for the south side. Also make 5 crossbars for the rear of the tabernacle, which will face west. The middle crossbar attached halfway of the frames will run all the way from the end of the tabernacle to the other. Overlay the frames with gold and make gold rings to hold the crossbars. Overlay the crossbar bars with gold as well. Set up this tabernacle according to the pattern you were shown on the mountain. For the inside of the tabernacle, make a special curtain of finely wooden linen, decorated with blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and with skillfully embroidered cherubim. Hang this curtain on the gold hooks attached to 4 posts of acacia wood. Overlay the posts with gold and set them in 4 silver bases, and hang the inner curtain from clasps and put the Ark of the Covenant in the room behind it. This curtain will separate the holy place from the most holy place. Then put the Ark cover, the place of atonement, on top of the Ark of the Covenant inside the most holy place. Make the table outside the inner curtain on the north side of the tabernacle, and place the lampstand across the room on the south side. Make another curtain for the entrance to the sacred tent, and make it of finely woven linen and embroider it with exquisite designs using blue, purple, and scarlet thread, and craft 5 posts from acacia wood. Overlay them with gold and hang the curtain from them with gold hooks, and cast 5 bronze base for the posts. Okay, we're at Exdous chapter 27. So we'll be at Exdous chapter 27 tomorrow. Or should I just read it? I should just read 27 and then I'll stop at 28. Plans for the altar of burnt offering. Using acacia wood, construct a square altar 7.5 feet wide, 7.5 feet long, and 4.5 feet high, and make horns for each of its 4 corners so that the horns in the altar are all one piece. Overlay the altar with bronze. Make ash buckets, shovels, basins, meat forks, and fire pans, all of bronze. Make a bronze grating for it, and attach 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. Install the grating halfway down the side of the altar under the ledge. For carrying the altar, make poles from acacia wood and overlay them with bronze. Insert the poles throughout the rings of the 2 sides of the altar, and the altar must be hollow made from planks. Build it just as you were shown on the mountain. Plans for the courtyard. Then make the courtyard for the tabernacle enclosed with curtains made of finely woven linen. On the south side, make the curtains 150 feet long. They will be held up by 20 posts and set security in 20 bronze bases. Hang the curtains with silver hooks and rings. Make the curtains the same on the north side. 150 feet of curtains held up by 20 posts. Set security in bronze bases. Hang the curtains with silver hooks and rings. The curtains on the west end of the courtyard would be 75 feet long, supported by the 10 posts set into the 10 bases. The east end of the courtyard, the front would also be 75 feet long, and the courtyard entrance would be on the east end, flanked by 2 curtains. The curtains on the right side would be 22.5 feet long, supported by 3 posts set into 3 bases. The curtain on the left side would also be 22.5 feet long, supported by 3 posts set into the 3 bases. For the entrances to the courtyard, make a curtain that is 30 feet long. Make it from fine wooden linen and decorate with beautiful embroidery in blue, purple, scarlet thread. Support it with 4 posts, each security set in its own base. All the posts around the courtyard must have silver rings and hooks and bronze bases. So the entire courtyard will be 150 feet long and 75 feet wide, with curtain walls 7.5 feet high, made from finely wooden linen. The bases for the posts will be made of bronze. All the articles used in the rituals of the tabernacle, including all the 10 pegs used to support the tabernacle and the courtyard curtains, must be made of bronze. Okay. Commands for Israel to bring you pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to keep the lamps burning continually. The lampstand will stand in the tabernacle in front of the inner curtain that shields the ark of the covenant. Aaron and his sons must keep the lamps burning in the Lord's presence all night. This is a permanent law for the people of Israel, and it must be observed from generation to generation. Okay, that was the last chapter. We're at 28 tomorrow. So I read Exodus chapter 16 till Exodus chapter 27.